All insecure attachment styles have a fear of getting close to others, but the way they cope with it is very different. So for instance, the anxious attachment style deals with their fear of getting close by being selective with their partners or who they let in, and then when they do let someone in, they hold on to them for dear life, and they shift and mold themselves into who the other person needs them to be, and then sees this person as someone that can attend to all of their needs. Fearful avoidant deals with it by doing some similar traits to the anxious attachment style, by being selective and putting a lot into this person, but then pushing them away and then pulling them and then pushing them away. And this especially happens when they're triggered by their fear of intimacy or their fear of abandonment. Now, avoidant attachment style deal with their fear by avoiding any type of vulnerability or intimacy, but it is much deeper than that. There are conscious and subconscious points and fears to which we will be diving into today. I got this idea, and a lot of the points I will be talking about today come from a psych major and another YouTuber I came across named Heidi Priebe. She did an excellent video on why avoidance fear intimacy, which I will leave in the link below. I will be reiterating some points that she had made, as well as adding my own perspective. But first, before we dive into today's video, if you don't know me and you're new here, welcome. My name is Missy. I'm a life and relationship coach, and on this channel we get to the root of the issue and we learn how to heal and deal. So if that's your thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to be a part of the fam. And if you already are a subscriber, you already know I appreciate you so much. Let's dive into today's video. So let's talk about avoidant attachment on a conscious level, how they operate. So on a conscious level, avoidance form strategies. Usually when we behave a certain way, it's because there's a need we are trying to get met. Avoidant attachment is about self-regulation. That's where the hyper-independence comes in. There's an over-rely on self and self-regulation, and an under-rely on emotional support, co-regulation, which is when you turn to others for emotional support and for them to help you to process your emotions. Instead, they turn to routines or ways to manage their emotions on their own. It is not that they avoid reaching out to others because they don't want to bother anyone or think no one wants to hear them. No, it's not even a thought in their mind. This is because they were taught to not co-regulate. And I can 100% relate to this, where I've been someone where my friends or my partners, like when I'm going through a hard time, they'll be like, why didn't you tell me? And I'd be like, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. I didn't even think to reach out or to talk about, what's going on. So people who have avoidant attachments, they set their entire lives around being able to keep themselves emotionally stable without consciously realizing it. So to self-regulate, they give themselves small comforts. So that could be avoiding certain conversations, always having something to look forward to, so that way they don't have to rely on others for comfort or happiness. Having routines like waking up at a certain time or cleaning at a certain time. This is so that they can keep their environment controlled. The reason why they want to keep their environment controlled is so that they can expect what they're going to feel. If you can predict what's going to happen, then it's easier to maintain and control your emotions. You're taking that uncertainty aspect out of it, which can be a trigger for a lot of our emotions. They consciously have these routines or things, but don't realize they are strategies to protect themselves and to keep them stable. These strategies are protective barriers to protect avoidant attachment from experiencing any discomfort. When those strategies and that ability to self-regulate is threatened, it throws off their emotional equilibrium. Emotional intimacy throws them off balance, especially when they have designed their whole life around self-regulating that doesn't require people's input. Becoming vulnerable or sharing their inner world with others, that feels uncomfortable. They've spent most of their life creating these protective barriers that they then can feel threatened by vulnerability. When someone else comes into the mix, they now have to compromise and factor someone else. They didn't learn how to do that. So in their mind, they think, I now have to share my feelings. You want me to lean on you? You want me to add you to the equation? I don't like that. That's weird. So it is not that they are selfish and don't want to make room for another person. It's more so that they fear that instability and fear losing their strategies and their protective barriers. They keep people at bay, and that's why oftentimes you won't see their negative emotions. You won't see them get dysregulated. That is such a vulnerable thing that only very few get to see, if even. Now layer 2, which is the unconscious level, as Heidi likes to break it down, This is the level that people do not recognize until they do some healing work. But the unconscious stuff that's happening is causing them to push others away. Avoidant attachment style people, they have some sort of disgust response around emotional intimacy. From the time they were infants, toddlers, they had an experience where their needs, vulnerabilities, or emotions were rejected by a caregiver. This could be by the caregiver telling the child that crying is not allowed, so shaming the child, and that's a non-subtle way, or in subtle ways where they don't respond to their child's emotional needs, where they don't hug them, comfort them, and maybe they're cold towards them. This often happens by parents that also have avoidant attachments and don't even realize that they're causing harm. They don't realize this is hurtful behavior. They too were brought up to fear and feel disgust around emotions and vulnerability. So these parents are less likely to respond to their child's emotions. They don't know it is necessary, or they don't know how. See, here's the thing. We mirror our parents' emotions. In order to mirror an emotion, we have to have access to it first. So if you have a parent that doesn't show you how to be sad, angry, frustrated, disappointed, when you don't have someone to mirror those emotions or show you how to feel them, you then will be like, oh, this must be wrong. And two, will suppress your emotions and feel shame about them. So a avoidant attachment parent will try to shift their child's mood so they don't have to encounter the uncomfortable emotions, rather than mirror them or show them and help them how to process them. So if the avoidant parent is showing disgust or avoidance to these needs and emotions, when the infant or toddler sees this, in their brain, they subtly and quickly learn that needs, sadness, helplessness, all uncomfortable emotions lead them to get rejected or form a distance from their caregiver. As helpless children, we need to have someone we can be attached to, someone that will make us feel safe, and we need our parents to help us with daily tasks and help us navigate through life. There's a big scary world. We're just a little helpless child. So because of this, we will do whatever it takes to maintain having our caregiver. In the avoidant attachment case, they realize, oh, in order to maintain my security, I have to avoid and rid these feelings so I'm not rejected and I don't die. So these avoidant attached children become classically conditioned to associate feelings of vulnerability and need with disgust. Their parents' voice, words, and face unconsciously lives in their mind, and they assume the rest of the world will be like that too. So that's what they learned, is how they have to navigate in life. That's how you're supposed to survive. So what this means is that they have been brought up to unconsciously feel shame and disgust for their own emotions, feelings, vulnerabilities, and needs. Heidi in her video gives an example where she wouldn't share with others her chronic pain, and so at that point she was like, well, why am I avoiding telling anyone? And so she took some time to self-reflect, and she was asking herself, why won't I share this? And so she went back and realized the thought of saying she didn't feel well caused panic, because she could see subtle changes in their face where they were about to show concern or pity and empathy. And when this happened, she would get flooded with disgust. She hated herself for having those emotions and for feeling pity, or when she thought of others empathizing with her, because it was hardwired in her to not show vulnerability. And she would get flooded with shame and would say anything to get them to not feel that. And that's when the light bulbs went off in my head, and I was like, holy moly, I can relate. I always would tell people I didn't want to share things because I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I'm someone where I've been through the depths of hell, been through really tough stuff that most people haven't encountered, and I would always say, you know, it makes people uncomfortable, like, you know, they don't know what to say. I don't want to make them feel bad. And really it's that I didn't want to deal with my own shame for having, you know, these emotions, and I didn't want to deal with my own disgust, and I was projecting. And that's part of the reason why I want to do this video today, is because I think this is such gold knowledge that's unknown about the avoidant attachment. Is a lot of times people just write off avoidant attachment as like, oh, you know, they're cold, you know, just they are really hard to have a relationship with, but really there's all of these underneath layers and they're very misunderstood. So if neurons fire and wire together, meaning every time you were vulnerable or had a need as a child, it was paired with disgust and shame, you learn to do that to yourself. Seeing this, how your parents responded, you then do that to yourself. So avoidants may believe that they are weird or antisocial or people are rejecting them, but really it is them projecting their rejection of their own emotions and their own shame. Pretty trippy. Avoidant attachment people are not consciously thinking, oh, I hope this person won't reject me, or I hope that they'll be accepting of my emotions. No, the act of sharing in itself causes avoidance and self-rejection on an unconscious level. They will get the ick, or they'll be like, nah, I'm good, when it comes to that vulnerability. But they won't be sure why, because it is on an unconscious level. They just know they don't want to do it, but I don't have the answers why. On a conscious level comes out in projection, because something we always say on this channel, what is suppressed and unconscious has to come out some way. So when an avoidant attachment person sees someone else expressing emotions, they may say, oh, you're pathetic and weak, or oh God, why are they sharing that? But really that's how they feel inside. That's how they feel about themselves. Which is funny about me is I don't relate to that. When someone's sharing their emotions, I don't think, oh, they're pathetic. I am the opposite, where I overly empathize with everyone else, and when someone tries to empathize with me, I get grossed out and I hate it and I want them to stop. And then the third layer Heidi talks about is they feel like something's wrong with them, but they can't quite put their finger on it. Or they may see everyone who has relationships and be like, I don't understand why I can't have that, or why I don't want that deep level of intimacy. They are not unaware that something's off with them. People often mistake thinking avoidants don't want relationships or deep intimate relationships, and it's not about that. It's that shame is at their core, and they are so terrified because they were rejected by being vulnerable. Since relationships require give and take and vulnerability, they don't know how. And also it feels like a threat and a danger to do so. You're not going to do something that feels threatening or dangerous, even though logically you understand that, but emotionally, that's how they survived for all this time, is by not giving into that vulnerability and those emotions. They have a deep urge to avoid those things and maintain their coping mechanisms and strategies. There are layers and layers of these strategies that it's hard to get to the root of what's going on, or them understanding, why am I like this? They are still humans and have emotions and needs, and part of our needs is co-regulating. Having others be there for us, opening up to others. But that self-shame and that self-rejection and that belief that vulnerability will lead to rejection can prevent them from getting close to others. And it will prevent them from getting to the root of what their core issues are, or from getting the help that they need, because getting help is a very vulnerable thing, and that can be really tough for people that have avoidant attachment, because again, they were shamed for asking for help. So Heidi suggests in order to deal with this, it would be beneficial to get help from a counselor that knows about attachment styles, and also to first start by connecting with other avoidant attachment people who are on the road to recovery, and the road of self-healing, or someone that has formed a learned secure attachment that were originally avoidant. She says it's easier to learn from them, and you can learn more from someone that has been through it before. Not only that, but there's a strong mutual respect where you know you won't be dealing with someone who's emotionally dysregulated, and then you won't feel that disgust for those uncomfortable emotions. You'll start to deal with that shame and feel better about having those emotions, and see that you won't get rejected, or you'll see that it's not wrong after all to have these emotions. She also states that if you are an anxious attached style person and you're watching this to try to get an avoidant attached style to be more intimate or vulnerable, that's not fair, and to not do that. Avoidantly attached people won't do healing work until they feel they're ready, which is most people. It's not fair to rush someone on their journey, and not only that, resentment and friction will build. Avoidantly attached style people have built these strategies for protection. So imagine you have a safe, warm, comfortable blanket. Someone just rips it off of you without you wanting it to take it off yourself. You'd feel threatened and angry and would fight back. That's what would happen with them too. They'd want to fight back. They would be resistant to the change. So that's exactly what someone who has avoidant attachment would also feel if they had someone that takes off their warm, comfortable blanket, aka, trying to take away their strategies or take away their coping mechanisms and try to force them into dealing with their emotions without them being ready for it. So that's why you want to use this video as a way to understand a avoidant attached person. And if you are someone who has avoidant attachment, you can relate to this. I hope you feel more understood and that you can understand yourself better. And this is where you can start by understanding the root of your issues is that you have deep shame for your emotions and disgust, and that the angle you want to go at is to build a healthier foundation around vulnerability, intimacy, and having needs. So what do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. Today's one of those days where just everything's going wrong. My camera broke, not my camera, my battery broke. But we're managing, we're dealing. Oh, I'm still recording. I am a mess. Are you kidding me? I literally wasn't recording again. Oh, thank God I'm recording this time. So let's talk about avoidant attachment on a conscious level, how they, so that they can feel, yeah, I know that was dying. Sorry, my camera, sorry, my light died. Anyway, back to regular code. Why is my tongue like not functioning? Why am I tongue tied? On a scale of 1 to I'm over life right now, I'm in the depths of hell. Like, I swear. I don't even know. I don't know. Okay, just breathe.